but that just meant that the bubble eventually would get much bigger, and that's what we're facing today because it's huge. I happen to believe it's the biggest financial bubble in the history of monetary policy for the whole world, and the correction is going to be very, very violent, and it's already pretty bad. People are going to get a lot poorer. We have been able to convince the people, those who promote this type of a system, that wealth comes out of a printing press. And the distortions have been so great, and it allows everybody to live beyond their means, as it circulates. And the individuals, can get low interest rates and they get their houses, and the stock market's happy. But it's all tied in with malinvestment. Nobody talks much about inflation and malinvestment. The money goes places where it's really not productive. And that's why we're seeing unemployment rising here rapidly, and the value of the dollar going down, and gold prices going up. So it's a system that can't last, but people who have, and a society that has lived way beyond their means, I'm convinced has to live beneath its means. I compare it to an individual. If you or I lived because somebody was going to give us $1 million every month and we didn't have to work, we'd feel pretty good. Hey, this is great. Until maybe somebody calls the tune and say, oh, we have to stop loaning you any more money because you have to pay your bills. And that's what's happening now. The bills have to be paid. The economy is going to turn down, and a lot of people have already gotten a lot poorer, but it's going to get a lot worse unless we wake up and return to some sound economic and monetary policies. I think the conservatives are fibbing because they're participants. Everybody said you'd have to have more bipartisanship in the Congress. Well, I was there, and I'm looking at what's happening right now. They're very bipartisan. Even when they're trying to impeach the president, they pause if they have to pass an increase in the national debt. I claim there's only two problems you really have in Washington. It's the conservatives and the liberals, because they all like the spending. They all endorse the Fed. They all endorse the empire to different degrees and for different reasons. But there's a lot of bipartisanship going on. But, the Republicans certainly do talk a better case. They'd like to lower taxes and all. But they had their chance to do some cutting, but it's politically impossible. So it's not going to happen where, let's get some new good guys up there. We'll get some more libertarian types and we'll start cutting back. It's not going to happen. The pressure is so great that right now, the big argument, they create $3 trillion to bail out the first part of this downturn. And now they're arguing about, well, should it be another trillion or another $2 trillion for the next episode? That's where the debate is. And it just means that people need to get prepared in many different ways. Well, we have to, identify why they're having trouble and eliminating the pain and the suffering. They're having trouble because of the malinvestment, the deficits and interference in the economy and the interest rates. So you have to stop it. The problem there is you ask a good question because that's the political question. What are you going to do about it? How do you think you're going to get elected if you don't, send them more money? And that's why it'll happen until finally the dollar is, destroyed, and they'll have to start all over again with monetary reforms. But it's a almost impossible thing to expect the politicians to do it, no matter how sincere they are. They might go up to Washington with the idea, well, we need to cut back, but only a handful of us ever voted against the spending. Then the spending continued. To me, it's a philosophic position, and it doesn't come from the politicians. The politicians are merely a reflection of what they had been taught in the universities. The people I knew in Congress were all Keynesian socialist types, and they believe it was the right thing. Deficits don't matter, and governments take care of poor people. And yet, if you look at the record, they're the ones who creates the bubbles, and therefore the collapse comes as a consequence of what they did. So it's tough medicine is what it is. So I see it in medical terms. Nobody wants to hear you have to have major surgery, and it's risky because that has to happen in the economy, but it's not going to be acceptable until the final drop of blood is drained from our economic system and the monetary system, because people are going to demand the checks, and the checks sure flowed like never before. And they're going to keep coming. I think they're ready to send more checks out and make people happy.